as the free agency come to an end, the Jacksonville Jaguars roster is starting to finally shake out. And it's 4 players on this roster that need to make a key impact on this team this upcoming season in order for these guys to be on this roster past 2027 season. In this video, I'm going to break down these 4 players and what they need to do. Let's go.
I'm terrific, I'm finessing in that kitchen, dead Fisher. Dope yellow color, something like or Indiana Pacers or Reggie Miller. I'm in that bit like a man.
Now, we know that the Jacksonville Jaguars wasn't really big spenders in free agency. But on this roster, there are about 4 players that really need to show and prove this year if they want to stay on the roster past the 2027 season. And these guys are all either in the final year of their contract or getting ready to go into their final year of their contract. And these guys are pretty much paying for a payday right now. So let's get right into it. As an honorable mention right now, before we go into get deep into the field, we're going to start with cornerback Christian Bradwell. Christian Bradwell was a guy that they did sign after the offseason. He was one of the first guys they signed. They signed him on for another year on. Now, this guy's a guy that came in last year. He played well in spots. Injuries has been his reason why he hasn't really been on the field as much, because injuries first 2 seasons. Last year was the first year we really got to see Christian Bradwell play an extended amount of time. But the first 2 years on this roster, he just couldn't get on the field. So it's going to be very imperative this year that he make his mark on his defense, help this defense take the next step. And I think if he does that, this guy can get a similar payday, similar to what Martarik Brown got on his roster, if this guy can step it up. I like some of the things that Christian Bradwell do. He can play in man. He can play in the slot. So this guy can do it all, man. So, but he's a good piece. But he's gonna have to be somebody again that's gonna have to step up and show his worth on this roster. Another guy is on the offensive tackle is Cooper Hodges, a Jacksonville guy, local guy. We was all rooting for this guy to make the team, but another guy that could not stay on the field was injuries. Now Jacksonville Jaguars did waiver him last season, but the Jaguars still hold his rights. So maybe the Jaguars give him another shot to try to redeem himself, prove himself. Maybe he can show that he can deserve a spot on his roster. But right now, technically, he's still on a roster. And you're going to have a lot of guys like, oh, he got waived and you don't know what you're talking about. Jaguars still own his rights. So that's why I mentioned him. We're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to start with a guy named Anton Harrison. Now, Anton Harrison has been a throughout the league, man. Like a guy, he's basically a middle-of-the-road tackle. A starting tackle. But when you look at it, dog, James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, these guys, they really don't owe him no loyalty. He was with the old regime with Trent Baalke. So, again, he's going into the 4th year of his contract. The Jaguars will have to make a decision with him pretty soon in the next year or so. So it's going to be good that he solidify his spot on offensive line. Can he be the anchor? Last year, Cole Van Lathan, I felt like was our best offensive lineman last year. But, Anton Harrison held it down too. But can he, rise his game up and really solidify and say, can I be a top 10 or maybe just a top 15 tackle? I think if he can get into that top 15, top 10 category of tackles, then I think, the Jaguars may have to entertain, some conversations on, making him, a high paid, tackle in the league. But right now, when you look at Anton Harrison, man, he's a guy that, still some stuff to desire for him. He still got to get better in the run blocking. And I think, once he can take those steps and run blocking, get better in that, he's okay pass blocking, pretty solid, but he still is some work he can do in there as well. But I think overall, we just want to see this guy just, develop into a more complete offensive tackle. And I think, this year, we gonna see, man, because like I said, they're gonna have to make a decision on him soon. So let's segue over to the defense, man, and let's talk about some guys they need help with is the defensive line spot, which is Devon Hamilton. Devon Hamilton is a guy that, He's been good in cleanup duty as far as a rotational defensive line guy. He has been well. But again, the Jacksonville Jaguars, we struggle. We get, getting sacks and pressures and things like that. As a unit, we have to get better. And I think, going into the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars probably going to most likely draft somebody on the line. And so I think, with Devon Hamilton being into his last year, you might have to fight for some playing time, man, especially when these young cats come in here and they start competing with your rotational to get in the rotation. Hey, it could possibly, you might get cut. That's not out of the question. But I do think Devon Hamilton needs to kind of just solidify his role on the rotational piece as a D lineman. And if he does well, maybe he can get him get another contract. But with the production he's doing right now, I don't see that likely happening. I think he may be out of here by the end of next year. But again, it's all about production. It's a production-based business, man. So I think if the production's there, I think Devon Hamilton he keeps he stays in Jacksonville. And the last person I want to talk about is Travon Walker. And we all know Travon Walker is coming to his 5th year. The Jacksonville Jaguars still haven't picked up the 5th-year option yet. And yeah, man, this is gonna be one of those years that I think Travon got to at least make it to a Pro Bowl, dog. You look at Aiden Hutchinson, he's gonna ever be compared with Aiden Hutchinson as a guy that people feel like we should have possibly drafted over Travon Walker. And when you look at it right now, Aiden Hutchinson in all metrics has been the more productive player. But I do think Travon Walker has shown signs, and I would say he's been a solid defensive end, defensive tackle, however you want to play him. He's been solid on that line, man. We've seen the highs and we've seen the lows of Travon Walker. And I think, this year is one of those years where Travon Walker got to show that, hey, man, I belong. I am one of the best defensive tackles, defensive ends, wherever you want to line me up at in the game. I want to show that I can dominate and take that position and do what I need to do. But, going into year 2 of this really shows some improvement. Right now, I think this one of our biggest needs is on the front 4, our line, things like that. I talked about that earlier with Devon Hamilton, but I think he's probably the key major piece. And I think if he does well this year, it's going to be a successful year for the Jacksonville Jaguars on the defensive end. So, I think, these 4 guys are the guys that I think are going to have to be playing for, contracts this year. And I think, if I had to pick somebody out of the 4 of these guys that I think is going to show improve, I actually like Travon Walker, man. I think Travon Walker will probably be the biggest riser of these 4 guys. And I think he's going to be the one that, really, set the precedent this year. Going into that year, kind of like Devin Lloyd. But I think, if Travon Walker does good, I think they're going to find a way to re-sign him because, defensive tackles, D ends are a premium and they're hard to find. When you got somebody that's good in your system, you got to hold on to them. So, I just wanted to come on today, give my rant and my thoughts on, these guys that need to step improve. Get in the comment section, let me know your thoughts. Is any other guys out there that you think that need to show improve this year on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster? It's your boy Joe. I'm out. Peace.